Welcome to episode number 3 of my top 50 favorite board games of all time. My name is Cory, I'm with Talking Cardboard, and thank you for joining me. Like I said in my earlier videos, I go over segments of 5 games at a time and work our way down. We are getting into some really great games now, and I hope you all enjoy the list. On today's list, I go over games 40 through 36.
Number 40.
All right, and game number 40 on my list was number 8 last year. Game number 8, so it has dropped 32 spots down to game number 40. Still a fantastic game. Loved the game to bits. I think I've just played it so many times that it's just slowly starting to kind of drop down now. After 100 different plays or 150 plays of a game, what do you really expect? But this game will never leave my top 50 or top 100 games of all time. Like I said, just love it to bits, love everything about it, and number 40 is still really high. It just dropped 32 spots this year, and that game is Stone Age. In Stone Age, it is a very simple, light, family weight worker placement game where you have a tribe of workers that you are sending out to various locations, and locations to basically get resources, to collect cards, to build huts for victory points, and really at its heart, you are just trying to get the most victory points by the end of the game to win. This game is known for being a point salad game, and a large point salad game where at the end of the game you could have 200 to 300, maybe even over 300 points by the end of the game. But that is one of the aspects I love about it so much. I love getting all those points. Every turn you feel like you're doing something, and then that's what's really fun about it. You are given a tribe of workers that you start off the game with. Everybody starts off with 5 workers, and you are sending them out to various locations to gather resources. Those resources will help you buy cards for endgame victory points and build different huts to your board, and the huts are worth victory points as well. And that's basically at the core of what you're doing in the game. One of the really cool mechanisms about this game is that depending on the value of the resource, so gold is obviously more valuable than clay or wood, that depends on how hard it is to gather that resource. So if you go down to the river to gather some gold, it is divisible by 6, whereas going to the woods, it's divisible by 3. So depending on the amount of workers, like I said, you send the workers out to those locations, roll that many dice, you add up the total value of those dice, and you divide it by what the resource is divisible by. So let's say you send 3 workers to go gather some gold, for example, and you roll a 3, 4, and a 5. 3, 4, and 5, that equals what, 12? You divide that 12 by 6 because gold is really hard to gather, and divided by 6 is only 2. So you get 2 gold out of that. Pretty decent, not too bad. You had to send a few workers out there to gather only 2 pieces of gold. But let's say you were to roll that same value out in the woods to gather some wood with those 3 workers. You would have come home with that 12 value divided by only 3. You would come home with 4 pieces of wood versus only 2 pieces of gold. So that's one of the really cool mechanisms in this game that I really enjoy. Really deciding how many workers to bring out to each location will really mitigate your die rolls. You can also get some different tools in the workshop, and those will allow you to mitigate your dice as well, but it's really the people who don't like this game tend to label this game as just luck based and roll of the die luck, which there is some luck involved with the die rolls, but I would say that they're just playing the game wrong if they think it's just 100% luck, because the mitigation of luck is what makes this game fun. I mean, if you really need a specific resource to build a hut, well, you better maybe send 1 or 2 additional workers out there to make sure you get what you need. You know, you can hunt for food because you have to feed your workers at the end of every round too, as well. But that's what's fun in this game is deciding how many workers and how far to push your luck to go out and roll those dice to get what you need to bring it back to your main camp, and to build the different cards and build the different huts to get you victory points at the end of the game. So that's what's real fun about this. If you like worker placement, you like the family weight, medium weight games, this is definitely one to check out. If you haven't played it yet, I would definitely play this one. A mainstay in my collection, one of my wife's favorite games of all time. I would say that this is probably on her top 5 favorite games of all time, but we've just played the crap out of this game. We've probably played it 150 plus times, and that's why it's slowly starting to drop for me, because I've just played it so many times. But for new gamers or for other friends or gamers who haven't played the game before, I'm the first one to say that I'm extremely excited to grab it off the shelf and put it on the table and get it played, because it's just that much fun. So that is Stone Age.
Number 39.
All right, and my number 39 on the list was number 19 last year. So this one dropped 20 spots. So this had another significant drop. Fun fact, this was actually one of the first 2 games I ever bought when entering the hobby. So another one like Stone Age that's a mainstay in my collection. Stone Age was the 3rd game I ever bought, and this game I'm about to mention was my 2nd game ever bought for my collection. So they have a special near and dear place in my heart for that reason. And like I said, I'm never getting rid of it. I don't know if these will ever drop down past my top 100 favorite games of all time, because they are just that great. Another one that I think I've played so often and so many times that it's just dropped quite a bit for me. But yeah, that game is Dominion, the granddaddy of deck building. And like you know, many people already know the genre of deck building. That's all this game is. There's hardly any theme to it, but it's all about starting off with a certain deck of cards, drawing 5 cards, and seeing what you can do with those cards. They're different. You can gather money with the cards. You can generate more actions to purchase cards and to your deck, and basically you're just trying to grow your deck and build it a certain way to go off of what engine or what strategy you're planning on playing throughout the game, and you're just building that deck better and better and better, and just filling it with more and more cards, and that's just a ton of fun in itself. Another really cool thing about this game too is that you actually purchase your victory points. And they're displayed on cards. But what you don't want to do is purchase them too soon in the game, because they go straight to your discard pile and get shuffled in with the rest of your deck throughout the game. So if you purchase those victory point cards too early and you start drawing those are dead cards. They don't do anything for you. They don't generate income. They don't generate more actions. They don't do anything for you other than just sit there and look pretty. So if you draw too many of those early game or mid game, you start running into turns that are less profitable and less beneficial than what could have been. So it's all kind of that race to the finish where midway through the game or later game, people start trying to purchase those victory point cards to put in their deck, but like I said, you just don't want to do it too soon. You do it too soon and you're out of the game. You are drawing those dead cards and they do nothing for you. So that is what I really enjoy about Dominion, and definitely one to give a try. I know most of you out there have already tried, if not heard about Dominion, and I don't know if you've heard good things or bad things, but for anybody who said anything negatively or badly about this game, I would cover your ears and not listen to them, because this game is just a great one and one worth trying. At this point, it's got about 50 different expansions. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I think it's got expansion number 20 coming out this year. So yeah, I don't know. There's a few expansions that I'd probably stay away from, but the majority of them are pretty decent. I would say I really like Prosperity. That's the expansion I own, because it adds more higher value cards and higher value point cards to the game, which are a lot of fun. I don't own Seaside, but I've heard great things about Seaside, and I don't know. Pick 1 or 2 expansions that kind of appeal to you after buying the base game, because I know after playing the base game, you are just going to love this game. So that is Dominion.
Number 38.
All right, and my number 38 favorite game was actually 38 last year as well. So it hasn't moved at all. It's stayed exactly the same and exactly where it should be. The only difference is that I actually put the other version, there's a couple different versions of this game. So I put the other version of the game on my list this year because I do, after much thought, thinking about it for a while, I do like this version a little bit better than the other version. Both are pretty much the same fun for me, but I would say that this version squeaks out a little bit ahead of the other, and that is is the Resistance Avalon. So the Resistance Avalon, almost identical to the Resistance, except for it adds one other minor thing in the base part of the game. There are some expandable features to the game where people get different special abilities and this and that, but I'll kind of go over that now. In the Resistance, it is a social deduction game where when it's your turn, you are deciding how many people to send out on a mission. So the center board to the game tells you how many people you send out on each mission. You will go through a total of 5 missions throughout the game, and at the end of those 5 missions, whoever's left standing is the winner. There are 2 different teams. They're basically the good team, and the bad team are considered the spies, or considered the minions in Resistance Avalon. So depending on what team you're on is dependent on the strategy that you're trying to go through this game. Everybody at the beginning of the game closes their eyes. The bad team people get to open their eyes and look at everybody else, so you know if you're one of the minions along with the other ones or not. And then everybody closes their eyes again, and then everyone opens their eyes. So at the start of every game, all the minions or all the bad people know who all the rest of them are, but the good people don't know who the other good people are, and they don't know who the bad people are, so they're just kind of left in the dark. And you're going round and round sending these different people on missions to see if they're gonna succeed or fail the mission. And depending on what they do, you can kind of narrow down who's good and who's bad, and try to win that way. The really fun mechanism in this game though, and the really cool thing that you have to pay attention to, is that if you're a minion or on the bad side, you can actually succeed a mission or fail a mission. It's your choice. If you succeed a mission and the mission is an overall success, they might think you're a good guy for the remainder of the game, and you kind of throw them off your trail a little bit. If you're a good guy, you have to succeed no matter what. So that's kind of how that's kind of the deduction part of the social deduction, where you're narrowing down who's succeeding and failing missions, and eventually try to get to the point where if you're on the good team, you're only sending good people out on a mission. You want to leave all those bad people out, because if only one bad person gets on that mission, they can throw a fail card into the mix, and it only takes one fail card to fail the entire mission. So that's really the Resistance in a nutshell. The only thing the Resistance Avalon adds, which I find to be a little bit more fun now for me, is it adds the Merlin player. And Merlin knows who the good people are and the bad people are. So basically there's one added step in the beginning of the round. When everybody closes their eyes, the minions get to open their eyes and look at one another, so on and so forth. But then they close their eyes, and they stick up their thumbs, and Merlin gets to open their eyes and see everybody who has their thumbs up. So the bad people don't know who Merlin is, but Merlin knows who the bad people are, and the good people, naturally. Then they close their eyes, everybody opens their eyes, and now the good people are still left in the dark. They don't know who anybody else is. The bad people all know who each other are, but they don't know who Merlin is, and then Merlin just knows who everybody is. So that's kind of the trick, where Merlin wants to kind of tip off who the bad people are to the good people, without the bad people knowing that they're Merlin, because if the bad people find out they're Merlin, at the end of the game they can assassinate Merlin, and the good people automatically lose. Whether or not they won the game initially or not, they can still lose if Merlin is assassinated. So it adds a whole nother kind of curveball into the game that's a whole lot of fun. Now that I've played the game probably near 1,000 times at this point, adding that Merlin adds a lot of fun to it. So that is the Resistance Avalon.
Number 37.
All right, and my number 37 on the list was number 20 last year, so this one has actually dropped 17 spots. Still in a great spot, still a game I really love. If you ask my wife, she would say that she loves it a lot more than even me, but still, 37 on the list is extremely high, and a game that I love. Very simple game again, and that game is Kingsburg. So in this game, there's a main board with different characters that are in the castle, everybody from the king to the queen, and you work your way down. And depending on the hierarchy of the castle, those people will generate different resources for you. So obviously the king and the queen generate the highest amount of resources for you versus other people that are lower on down. But the main mechanism in this game is that at the beginning of your turn, you roll 3 dice. Depending on the values that you rolled, you can either combine values of the dice to put on people, or you can split them up however you choose. It's everywhere from 1 up to 18, so obviously if you roll a 17 or an 18, you'd have to use all 3 of your dice to either trigger the queen or the king to get those resources. But let's say you roll a 2, 3, and a 4, you might choose to trigger a 2, and then the 3 guy, and then the 4 guy to get those resources. Having said that though, you go around the table placing values of dice onto the board one at a time, or a group of them at a time, and if one of your opponents places on a person that you wanted to go to before you, then that actually blocks that person. So then you can no longer trigger that. So you want to really be careful on what dice you're deciding to place where, and looking at your opponent's dice to see what they might have, because they could potentially block you of your spot that you're looking to go to. So you kind of want to go to specific spots before they can get to there to maybe block it from them. But like I said, those different spots of people that you choose to trigger with those dice will give you those resources. You use those resources on your own player board. Everybody gets their own specific player board with different buildings on it that you are building out for victory points. Those buildings will also give you special abilities. So you're using those resources to build those out. And it's kind of an engine builder in a way where, depending on the different buildings that you have built on your player board, those could combo with different buildings to give you various actions and to give you different actions than what your opponents might have. You're basically going through the game over a certain set of rounds, and by the end of the game, whoever has the most victory points wins, depending on who got what resources to build what buildings. So it's a very light game. I'm kind of explaining it to sound a little bit more complex than what it is, but like I said, on your turn, you're just rolling out 3 dice, and you're deciding on what to do with those dice, on where to place them to get the resources. That's pretty much the gist of it. So, whole lot of fun. A lot of simple fun, but generates some good strategy. Another one that I like to play with brand new players, or if somebody hasn't played it before, I definitely suggest it and like to pull it off the shelf and get it to the table. So never shy away from that. That game is Kingsburg.
Number 36.
All right, and my number 36 game on the list is a party game that was 44 last year, so it's actually up 8 spots. It was 44 last year, it is 36 this year, so not too bad. I guess it's getting better for me, and that holds true to probably the opposite of some of the other games that had dropped, and that is because I've gotten this game to the table a lot more than expected. And I've gotten a lot of plays of it this year, and it's one of those games that typically never fails, depending on the group of players you're playing with. I've had a great time with a bunch of different types of gamers, new gamers and more advanced gamers alike. And like I said, it's a party game. It's a more complicated and complex party game the first couple plays through that you start with, but as you get more and more plays throughout the night of it, people tend to catch on more, and it becomes more fun the more you play it. And that game is Concept. So in Concept, like I said, it's a party game. You've got this huge board in the middle of the table that have all these different symbols, or all these different icons that mean different things. Everybody gets their little cheat sheet, and on the sheet it basically gives you the generic meaning of each of the icons. It actually gives you 3 examples of what each icon could mean, or what each symbol could mean. And basically when it's your turn, I don't know what the exact ruling is, but we usually put like a 5-minute timer on our phone, either a 4 or a 5-minute timer, and you choose either an easy, a medium, or a hard word off of the card. I think it gives you like 9 different words on the card to choose from, and depending on what the word or the sentence or the phrase is, I guess it doesn't have to be just a word, but it could be a sentence as well. Depending on what that sentence is that you choose, you are trying to get everybody else around the table to guess exactly what that sentence or what that word reads that's on the card. But to do that, you can't say anything but the word yes. All you have in your vocabulary is yes. Otherwise, it's complete silence on your end. You have these different colored cubes that you can place on the different symbols on the board that you're trying to get the other players to guess what your card says. Extremely hard to do at first, but once you get the hang of what the different symbols mean on the board, it tends to get easier, and as it gets easier and more familiar to players, it just gets more and more fun. But like I said, it's extremely hard to begin with. You know, after a few plays of it, people really tend to enjoy it. You might have an icon that means like a fantasy character, and then another icon shows like a movie camera. So you might put a blue cube on a fantasy character and a blue cube on a movie icon, and that means it's a fantasy character from a movie, potentially. Then, because those are blue cubes, you might want to use a different color cube. Let's say you want to use a green cube, and you might put it over on a different symbol, like a different icon, to basically tell your other players that it's a fantasy character from a movie, but what I'm putting this green cube on has something to do with it, but not exactly with that character. You might put, I don't know, you might put the green cube on like a holiday, and to kind of show that, oh, it's a movie that people tend to watch during the holidays, whether it be Christmas or whatever else. So the green cube is telling those players that it has something to do with the movie, with the fantasy character in it, but not exactly. So it's basically a sub-concept to the main concept. That's why the game is called Concept. So, like I said, it might not be for everyone, it might not be for every group, but to be real honest, I've brought this to the table with groups of people who the look on their face when I first brought it out basically told me abort, back out, put the game back in the box and just don't try it, because it just doesn't seem like a game that might gel with this certain group of people. But I've always stuck true to my initial plan. I've kept it on the table. I said, you know what, guys, let's just give this a few rounds, and if we don't like it, we can always put it away and play something else. But you know, you might like it, you might surprise yourself, you never know. And by the end of round 2 or round 3, that game has stayed, and it's stayed on the table for another hour and a half after that. So once people get hooked, they get hooked. They just got to give it a chance. So that is that's basically my thoughts on Concept. Alright, and that does it for today's video. Like always, if you like the video, definitely give it a thumbs up. If you like the channel and what we're doing here, definitely consider subscribing to the channel. We definitely like to see that, and it'll help us produce more content here in the future. Like I said, I hope you all like what you're seeing here, and the games just keep getting better and better and better as we continue. So until next time, you all have a great day.